a really interesting article actually about vibration and supporting complex learners using vibration to come to that point of orgasm.
Hello. Well, if I were an unscrupulous purveyor of clickbait, this video would have been entitled "Head Teacher in Scotland Wants to Provide Vibrators to Pupils." But that wouldn't quite be fair. But it's not that far off. Let's see. Now, Education Scotland had blocked us on Twitter, but I became aware that they were running a training session online, a sort of webinar, about sex education resources for pupils with special needs. So I thought that'd be interesting, because the rshp.scot website has included images for use with pupils with special needs, but they're password protected. They claim it's because they don't want people seeing them and misinterpreting them or whatever. I think that's not actually the reason. I mean, if you've got pupils looking for sort of sexually explicit material online, they're not going to go to the rshp.scot website, are they? There's plenty of other places they could go. I think the real reason they protect them with a password is to stop people like me, or maybe more likely me, looking at them, publicising them, and then actually making the public aware of what's being used in schools. But anyway, these things are password protected. So when there's this training going on, I thought I'll sign up and go along and just see if we can learn a bit more about the programme designed for special needs pupils. So I signed up with my real name, and they sent me the link for it. But when I tried to go to it, I clicked on the link, Microsoft Teams, into the waiting room. They're aware that you're waiting, and then access denied. I tried about 6 times. They just wouldn't let me in, basically. And I'm pretty sure they recognise my name, and they want to keep what's going on in schools secret from me, which is completely wrong. No matter how much of a critic I am of what's going on in schools in this regard, they should not be trying to keep it secret. They should be open about the training that's being provided to teachers. So, not one to despair. Instead of trying on my PC, I tried on my phone. I clicked the link on my phone, and lo and behold, it works. I was in. Now, I'm going to play some recordings of what went on. Maybe Education Scotland, they'll say, "Oh, that's not right, that's not right, you shouldn't be sharing that, that's confidential." It's not confidential. This is training to teachers. Okay, that's in the public interest. People need to know how teachers have been trained and what the thinking is that's been applied in schools in Scotland. So here we go.
Thank you, Colin. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm delighted to be here. My name is Jackie Urquhart. I'm the head teacher at Roslin School. It's not easy, and I was happy in my little comfort zone doing my body and consent, but actually having worked with Colin in this group round about the packs and really thinking about the importance of this pack, it was really important for us then to pilot it.
So the Colin mentioned there is Colin Morrison, the boss man of the rshp.scot resources. He's the one who wrote a PhD thesis that included discussion of breaking down the barriers between childhood and sexuality. There'll be a link to that video in the description and at the end of this one. So with his philosophy like that, he's at the centre of producing sex education resources, whereas myself, I'm having to sneak in under the radar because I'm sort of a pariah. Anyway, on we go.
In school, the messages around about masturbation, I think, are quite different. We want to redirect, we want to try and keep our kids and our young people busy, whereas at home, it's got a very different outcome, doesn't it? And the whole pack will take you through this bit about understanding complex learners and their right to have pleasure in their life.
So you can see the message here is basically masturbation should be discouraged at school, but encouraged at home. Now when it comes to masturbation, there's a spectrum of opinions. Roughly speaking, Catholic teaching is that it's just wrong. It's not something that's helpful at all. Quite a few Muslims have the same view. Some people see it as more ambiguous. Maybe the fantasy element, the lust element to it might be problematic. Some people see it as morally neutral. Some people see it as having practical dangers in terms of addiction, distorting sexuality, etc. And some people just see it as a completely good thing. And the SNP view it as a completely good thing, so something that should be encouraged in schools to pupils. Whereas other people might think maybe it's something that should be discouraged, or there should be a more balanced approach to it. Now notice here, this head teacher says the pupils have got a right to have pleasure in their life. I mean, what sort of person would read that? The right to have pleasure in their life, and interpret that to mean sexual stimulation. It's a classic case of human rights language, just take it to mean whatever you want it to mean. So if pupils have a right to sexual pleasure, if everyone has a right to sexual pleasure, I mean, what next? We're going to end up with sort of state-funded prostitutes for people whose rights are not being fulfilled? Who knows? Let's carry on.
So for me, we sat down and we looked at the questions round about what are the important questions to answer about home and school, and that's what this little chart's about. So we think, let's talk to our families about the stimulus that leads to arousal. Let's talk to them about where and when that can be accessed. Can we reduce or remove it at certain times of the day? Does it matter who's interacting with that young person? And I think, like you, I have staff who work with certain young people, be it gender or attraction, that can cause arousal while other staff's touch doesn't. How do we redirect when we need to? Can we alter the intensity of the arousing factors? So things like massage, if it's getting arousing, can we change the type of massage and the type of pressure that we're giving so that it's not as arousing?
Right, massage. This is obviously talking about staff massaging pupils. Now, a couple of years ago, I went to the Scottish Learning Festival, and there were a couple of stalls with organisations, businesses basically, promoting massage within schools, getting pupils to massage each other, etc. And I said at the time, I didn't really think that was right. I think massage is just too intimate. It's crossing a boundary that shouldn't really be crossed in the educational setting. That was my view. But here, we're talking about massage of pupils by staff. And the head teacher is saying some massage results in sexual stimulation of pupils. Okay, that's a problem, she thinks. So what do they do about it? She suggests they should change the type of massage to make it less arousing. Less arousing. I think no. Just stop it completely. Do not do that at all. I would suggest maybe this is the reason why you don't have massage in the first place. But the suggestion that you just sort of change the technique to make it less arousing. I mean, what is going on here?
How do we establish a masturbation routine? So here sits very firmly in home and with our pilot family, thinking about this complex learner is aroused and is trying to masturbate. We have to be able to establish a routine for that young person at home where they understand the context of when it's okay and the routine of how it's okay.
So she's saying there's a need to establish basically a masturbation routine at home, and it's the school's job to help parents of these children to establish that routine.
Again, Flo Longhorn's book, if any of us who've been in special schools for a long time, go back to the lovely words of Flo, who speaks about this resource and providing support to actually get to orgasm. And there's a really interesting article actually about vibration and supporting complex learners using vibration to come to that point of orgasm.
Well, so continuing the same theme, she's now talking about providing support to actually help the children, the young people, in their masturbating. And she's saying that vibration can help. She refers to this book. I had a look at the book. It's available online. There's a link in the description. I mean, it's over 20 years old. And to be honest, it's just complete rubbish. It's got reflexology. It tells you which toe to massage for sexual problems and aromatherapy. I mean, it's just unscientific nonsense. But it's also got things about massage as well, and about vibration and the place of vibration in massage and in masturbation. Here's a page from the book. The use of vibration is never mentioned in a school context, but it is clearly linked to masturbatory practices in the general public. Sitting on a vibratory cushion, lying on a massage mattress that has an easy-to-use handset that allows the speed and intensity of the finger-like massage pulse to be controlled is very pleasant and can lead to orgasm. There are many vibratory products being used in school and institutional settings. Generally, they're seen as providing a nice bodily experience and sensory stimulation. They include massage mats, etc., etc. It's a well-known fact that vibration can lead to sexual relief. If the above products were advertised elsewhere, in other words, not in an educational resources catalogue, there would be reference to the effects on sexual tension and stress. There's been little or no mention of the vibratory effects of these products for sexual relief. However, many people who try them can feel the potential of these benefits. It may well be that these products in the future will bear reference to their use in the privacy of a room for very special people. That's the term she uses for people with learning difficulties, pupils with learning difficulties, and provide practical relief. So what she's saying is these things, these massage mats, etc., that vibrate are already used in schools, but the sexual aspect isn't mentioned. But maybe in the future we'll be able to be more open about it and acknowledge that that is basically what they're used for by some pupils in schools. There's also this paragraph in the book when she's been talking about these different devices, ending on a humorous note. And Summers has on sale a talking vibrator that vibrates and also gives out sexual sounds of masculine groans. Not for the faint-hearted, and definitely not for the classroom. Okay, now reading that, what's her problem with this particular sex toy? The problem seems to be the groans. Now what we've got here, there's a whole range of things that are not strictly speaking sex toys, but she's saying they vibrate and they can be effectively used for sexual purposes. She's then saying there's this vibrator that makes noises, that would be out of order. What about all the in-between things that are specifically sex toys? That would be the obvious thing to mention at this point, but she doesn't mention them, probably because she thought that would be too controversial. So I would suggest, following her logic, it would seem to be that providing sex toys as well to pupils in school would meet with her approval. But anyway, but what this is saying, and what the head teacher in my recording is saying, is the teacher should be involved practically in the sex lives of the pupils, providing them with practical assistance in their, I don't know if you call masturbation a sex life, but anyway, but in that side of their lives. Now again, I feel that is crossing a boundary that shouldn't be crossed. Now a few years ago, Channel 4 in one of their terrible programs, they had this former Miss Belgium or something doing sex education lessons in Britain, and part of what she wanted to do was to give out vibrators to classes. So I mean this sort of idea is out there in the sex education establishment, and there's an example of it just starting to come through here.
And who can support this in more of a therapeutic approach? I think our families are saying we find it easier to talk to our NHS colleagues than perhaps our school colleagues. So could we bring together a kind of therapeutic group who help to establish those routines and resources and times and stimulus, etc.?
So the role of teachers is to help families establish the times for masturbation and to establish the stimulus, to provide the stimulus in some way. Right, you can imagine the sort of things that are in mind there. Now, I just want you to judge for yourselves. Do you think there's something wrong here? If there's something wrong about a teacher talking about helping pupils to climax while masturbating. Now, you may think these are pupils with special needs. Are they a special case in this regard? Well, I'm still very uncomfortable with this approach. Now what we've got here with these learners with special needs is an application of the same philosophy of sex education that's promoted to all schools by the SNP. Now special needs teachers, I'm sure a lot of what you do is great. I'm sure you often have angelic patience and are very caring with the pupils, but I would invite you to take a step back and ask whether the approach to sex education that's embodied in this recording is the right one. And you think it isn't, I would urge you to say something about that. Speak to someone, let your concerns be known. If you're a parent of a special needs child in a special school, to be honest, I'd be very concerned about what might be going on in that school and what conversations might be going on with your child. The same as for every other child as well. Be equally concerned. Now what I would really like to do is to sit down with someone, talk about this, debate it, put forward the point of view, let's see where we get to. But of course that never happens. This is Scotland. This is the debate desert. I could write to everyone involved in this, the teacher involved, Education Scotland, the rshp.scot resource providers, I could write to them all. In fact, I've written to them, a lot of them already, and say, please could we talk about this? Could we debate? No, they never will. They never will. So what we have to do is raise the issues with the public, take it into the political arena, because that's where it's coming from. The problem ultimately is the SNP and the weak opposition parties around them. So it is challenging at the political level. So to support us in doing that, join the Scottish Family Party right now via the link below. Right, before we go, couple of things to mention. Coming up next week on Thursday, we're involved in a protest outside the Scottish Parliament about the SNP's transgender guidance for schools that says about keeping secrets from parents, etc. So we're taking part in a protest. We're not organising this, we're taking part in a protest Thursday, 2nd of September, outside the Scottish Parliament, 11:30 a.m. 11:30 a.m. It'd be great to see you there. And also next week we've got some local branch meetings, Wednesday in Glasgow, Thursday in Edinburgh, and Friday in Peterhead. Keep an eye on our social media to see more information about those. But thanks for watching, and bye for now.